He knew that if he didn't act soon, they would be lost. Just like Jane, Arna, and Grant. Driven by desperation, Mr. Beaumont returned to the cave, armed with nothing but a lantern and a desperate hope that he could somehow undo the horror that had befallen his family. The drive was a blur, his mind racing with thoughts of what he might find inside. When he arrived at the entrance of the cave, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the desolate landscape. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and the darkness inside the cave seemed to pulse with a life of its own. But Mr. Beaumont pushed forward, the weight of his mission driving him deeper into the abyss. The cave was exactly as Mrs. Beaumont had described it. Dark, suffocating, the walls oozing with a sickly green light. But it wasn't the sight of the cave that sent a wave of terror through Mr. Beaumont. It was the voices, his children's voices echoing through the darkness, pleading for help, begging to be saved. And then he saw them. They stood in the center of the chamber, just as Mrs. Beaumont had described. Jane, Arna, and Grant, their faces pale and gaunt, their eyes hollow and lifeless. But this time they weren't alone. The man from Mr. Beaumont's dreams was there too, standing just behind them, his face obscured by the shadows.
"Daddy!" Jane's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Why didn't you save us?"
Mr. Beaumont's heart shattered at the sound of his daughter's voice. He wanted to rush forward, to gather his children in his arms and take them far away from this nightmare, but his feet were rooted to the spot. The man stepped forward, and as he did, the shadows peeled away, revealing his true form. The man, or rather the thing that had taken his form, was a grotesque mockery of humanity. His skin was stretched tight over his bones, his eyes sunken and filled with a darkness that seemed to reach out and consume everything it touched. His mouth was twisted into a cruel smile, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. "You can't have them!" Mr. Beaumont choked out, his voice trembling with fear. The entity laughed, a low, guttural sound that reverberated through the chamber.